Hello, English-speaking people who are listening to the book, The Holocaust of All Time. We are reading this in episodes. Last week we read 33, today is 34. We are at the precise moment in which the Inca Empire started to actually crumble down. The general of Atahualpa already telling everything of what Atahualpa did. He killed his brother, and Atahualpa is already in prison. He already paid his rescue in gold and money, a full room of it. So today, Saturday, we'll continue with episode 34. Thank you.
Atahualpa, perhaps the bad augur of that comet is going to happen. Some of your people, and most of ours, want your death. Huiracocha Soto, I urge you to tell Francisco's men that I must be let free. I told them, but their minds are made up. You have no friends. I will try to prevent your death, if I cannot get your freedom. I am a man of my word. Francisco. You must kill Atahualpa as soon as possible. I know that Soto wants him alive. I don't see why the rest of us should die for his supposedly chivalry. Almagro, I am also for eliminating the Inca. But not for the reasons that you have in mind. I must see if we are going to honor our word and allow the Inca go free or at least preserve his life. Francisco is right. We have to honor that part of our bargain. Soto. To hell with your word of honor to an Indian, whose people you despise. You and Francisco use that word to deceive others. As long as Atahualpa is alive, we won't get our share of the gold from the rest of Peru. I say that we execute the Inca. Felipillo was also wishing his death. Capito, I have heard that there is a large contingent of troops in Huamachuco, not too far from here. Atahualpa's generals are getting ready to attack us. Francisco. We must kill Atahualpa before it is too late. Almagro, Felipillo is lying. He wants to have him killed for the love of a woman, and you for the love of gold. Francisco and Almagro, I will personally go see for myself. If the uprising that Felipillo is talking about is true, don't do anything hasty with Atahualpa while I am gone. Remember that some of us are on the side of the Inca, for no other reason than to be true to the contract. The empire continued to be a divided nation, even the conquerors were forming their own factions, the Almagristas and the Pizarristas, who in time would end up killing each other. The Incas had also formed their own bands, the Huáscaristas and the Atahualpistas, who in turn packed alliances with the Spaniards' factions to do their fighting, and we are still siding for the interest of foreigners. Atahualpa, I myself will go to Huamachuco to verify if it is true that you have troops in revolt, and exonerate you of the accusations if they are false. Huiracocha Soto, send someone else. Anything could happen to you, and I will have no one to speak for me. Atahualpa, they will only believe me. My men, even if few, will speak for you. Francisco. Soto is gone. This is the time to kill Atahualpa. Almagro, at least we should try him legally. We have ample evidence to prosecute him and give him the penalty of death. With that purpose in mind, the Spaniards gathered to deliberate the fate of the Inca. Only one of the so many spoke on Atahualpa's behalf, Catano. I say no to Almagro and Francisco. They want to try Atahualpa, because Soto is gone. He is the only one who can speak on his behalf. I accuse you of treason. The Inca should be sent to the mother country to be judged in the royal courts. Apprehend and jail that insubordinate soldier for insulting me. Capitan. As treasurer of the crown, I also request that the Inca be prosecuted. If found guilty, he should be punished by death. We must proceed to Cuzco or you will be accused of preventing the enrichment of the crown. Don Francisco, you will be forming an illicit court to free yourself of guilt. You even have the approval of the treasurer, and most are in favor for his death. Except for the soldier of Soto who had protested, and he is now in jail. Such is the will of the majority, sometimes the disgrace of democracy when injustice overcomes justice. Condor Sol. We are less than 400 against the thousands of them. We have been in Cajamarca too long, and we don't know what is happening with the rest of the empire. Don Francisco, what you are about to do with your so-called justice is the same that the Indians are now receiving in our courts with the help of the mestizos who join with the oppressor to oppress their own people. Thus in our times we talk about holocausts, but one would think that the Indians are not part of humanity to be recognized with one of these catastrophic events. For genocide it was not, it decimated a civilization. It is inadmissible that those nations and peoples who suffered these despicable events do not raise the consciousness of mankind to let the world know that holocausts are still happening. Nothing will ever change until the Indians put an end to their own oppression. But when and by whom? Many are guilty of maintaining the status quo disguised by religion, unequal globalization, and a misguided democracy where the minority are the ones who cause misery in the majority. Atahualpa, tomorrow you will be judged for your crimes. Apu Machu. Why don't you execute me now, and prescind this disparity that you call justice? Atahualpa, you will receive the benefits of our justice, even if you don't understand it. A Spaniard will represent you, as is required by law. Huiracocha Francisco, the only defender I have is Soto, and he is gone. Without him, I have not a chance to receive a fair trial. Do what you have to do without your legal protocols. Your sense of justice is just like your religion that preaches not to kill, and all of you are killing my people. Atahualpa's accusers, besides the Spaniards, were his former enemies who sought with his death freedom from the Incas. Felipillo was the key man in the outcome of the judgment, and he would give the coastal people their revenge. Others who clamored for his life were the Chachapoyas and the Canaris, who had been castigated in Cuzco. With compatriots like them, he would have more clemency from the conquerors than his own people, and why in our days justice to the Indians will not come from the mestizos or the Indians, but from the World Court. The next day, July 25, 1533, the plaza became the first courtroom to try our own people under the guise of justice by foreigners, who had and still have not the least interest in a fair trial for the Indians. Nowadays our courts are no longer in the open but in great palaces, where they are still being tried by unjust judges and with translators like Felipillo, their lawyers. The Indians have not a chance to get a favorable outcome. In chains, this time around his neck, Atahualpa was brought to the square in the macabre crepuscule of one afternoon. Felipillo was at the head of the entourage, while Inti Pala kept an eye on the translator turned into a semi-Spaniard. Perhaps the love of two men for this woman accelerated the end of the empire. Sagas that have been sung in operas and written in countless novels. That same passionate love of a plebeian for a noble woman was no different in the New World, even if uncivilized. The Spaniards sat on the benches hastily made from the trunks of corrugated trees. Sancho de Cuellar, the notary, would write for the pages of our infamous history that the Inca had his day in court. Chavez, the would-be defender of Atahualpa, had not the least interest in justice, but he would represent the accused to conform with the formalities of a court. Among the members of the ad hoc tribunal there was not a single lawyer, but who needed one? For the lawyer's craft is in his tongue to twist the facts for the benefit or the detriment of the accused. In this mock trial anyone was qualified to be one. Because the more civilized we are, the more uncivilized we become in our sense of equity. In this judgment no one had the least intention of speaking in Atahualpa's defense. Even the lone Spaniard Catano had already made peace with Francisco, who promised him that he would not execute the Inca unless there was enough evidence. Atahualpa didn't have a chance in a court where the tongue and not the heart did justice. Perhaps the Inquisition. the stepdaughter of injustice, would have had more mercy for the accused than these adventurers. This was the New World. Anybody did as they pleased, and they still do in all of the American continent. The plaza was filled with the natives who were interested in seeing the Spaniards' ways of justice that was different than theirs, where the Inca swiftly delivered his verdict by letting the roar of boulders fall on the back of the condemned. There was Pizarro wearing the black robe of Santiago, like a crusader. Almagro, whose pockets were empty, looked impatient for the lynching to take place. With the death of the Inca, he would be free to continue with the rape of the empire.